Neumann offers a schema taken more or less, but in different colors, to describe the developmental process, focusing here on the feminine, starting from the collective unconscious down, and the deepest and earliest foundation of the human psyche, through the archetypal feminine, to the great mother archetype, the anima archetype, and up there, the further differentiation and manifestation. The psychological evolution of mankind begins with the matriarchal era, in which the feminine archetype dominates and the unconscious directs the psychic processes. Neumann chooses the ancient Egyptian symbol, the Ouroboros, the round snake eating its nail, as the initial container of the psychic opposites, being in an unconscious and unitary state, while consciousness and the ego are still undeveloped. The Ouroboros is located in the collective unconscious, between the formless, unrepresentable state of the archetype as such, and the primordial archetype of the feminine. The Ouroboros symbolizes a state in which chaos, the unconscious, nature, and psyche as a whole are united in an undifferentiated primordial Ouroboros feminine, in which opposites such as masculine and feminine, positive and negative, etc., all are conjoined in an almost undistinguished form, as seen in the following images. Without separation, the child will not develop into an adult. It seems as though the child is caught in a conflict played out between the mother and the father archetype. It is partly true, but Neumann adds that the self, in each stage of the psychic development, directs the process and pushes towards the next stage, the patriarchate, while the previous stage, the great mother, has to be overcome, and it appears as the archetypal, terrible, devouring mother. The constellation that Neumann describes as fear of the feminine normally appears in this stage as fear of the terrible mother or the witch, both in boys and in girls. This terribleness and the fear of it are archetypal and is even independent of a personal mother's correct behavior, which we love always to blame the mother, but it's archetypal. In a cosmic or mythological representation, through the separation of the world parents and the coming of light, the ego is positioned between the lower feminine world of earth and body and the higher masculine world of heaven and spirit. But since consciousness and the ego experiences themselves as masculine, this lower earth world is taken to be the world of the great mother and consequently hostile to the ego, while heaven is seen as the ego-friendly world of the father and of the spirit.
Let me speak about the birth of Sophia's myth. Sophia, Chokmah in Hebrew, Sapientia in Latin, wisdom in its English translation, first makes her appearance in Jewish literature a few hundred years before the dawn of the current era. The earliest explicit rendition of her myth is found in Proverbs, in verses that were probably written around the 4th century before the Common Era. In chapter 8 of Proverbs, Sophia announces herself in a bold first-person voice, proclaiming, and I quote here from Proverbs, "The Lord formed me from the beginning, before he created anything else. I was there when he set the clouds above, and when he established the springs deep in the earth. And when he marked off the foundations, I was the architect at his side. I was his constant delight, rejoicing always in his presence." Proverbs. Now that was an extraordinary new twist in the divine drama. The Lord had a companion from the very beginning, and she was his constant delight. After that beguiling insinuation about their relationship, however, little more of Sophia's story appears in the canon texts of Judaism or Christianity. Nevertheless, people of that distant time continued imagining this story forward and writing more about her. And those writings lingered on the fringes of later received tradition. Around 180 BCE, the Wisdom of Ben Sira, which is also known as Ecclesiasticus, and which was authored in Hebrew in Jerusalem, took up Sophia's tale again, intimating that Sophia, the Lord's companion from the beginning, was a divine immanence present within the created world, a divine immanence. And then some 200 years later, in the early 1st century, Philo of Alexandria and the unknown or unnamed author of the Wisdom of Solomon, both of whom were Hellenistic Jews, further embellished the plot. The Wisdom of Solomon describes an ecstatic event of knowing Sophia. And that ecstatic event was described with sexual imagery. So she, Sophia, is the bride with whom one entered the bridal chamber. I've heard individuals describe, on first seeing this picture of Sapientia on page 155, folio 155, as Jung's soul or anima. And it is true that at one point in the Black Book journals, Jung's soul did speak to him in the mythic guise of Sophia. And I believe that section appears in appendix, I think it's appendix B of the Red Book. You should read that. Someone threw that one in with a good reason. But in Jung's presentation here in the Red Book of Sapientia, of Sophia, of wisdom, he points toward a deeper mystery. She is the summation experience of many manifestations of the depth. She is the unity and totality of relationship with a fact indwelling the depths of humanity, an immanent mystery of cosmos and consciousness. And he announces her name, Wisdom, Sophia. I think Jung was addressing this story of Logos and Sophia with these words from Liber Novus. When something long passed away comes back again in a changed world, it is new. To give birth to the ancient in a new time is creation. This is the creation of the new, and that redeems me. Salvation is the resolution of the task. The task is to give birth to the old in a new time. Now, Erich Neumann probably knew a few of these details about Jung's inner mythic with Sophia. But intimate details aside, Neumann did intuit Sophia was part of Jung's history and perhaps the highest authority for him, as he said, just as Shekinah was for Neumann a highest authority. And this was a bond between these two men. I mean, look, when I look at the relationship, I see plenty of reasons why Neumann may not have been too happy with Jung at various points. But Neumann had realized that Jung had had this experience, like the Zodik. And Neumann described the Zodikim, as those who had found the Shekinah, had entered into this relation with the immanent divinity, had healed the fracture, had redeemed the exiled light.